Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Tech Bytes Takeover, as I like to call it, Between Two Geese. I am Tyler Jurgens, Senior Technical Product Marketing Manager here at Veeam. Man, Matt, I am glad I don't have to telegraph you that title, because that's going to cost me a lot of money. Matt, why don't you bring us live here and tell us what we're talking about today?
We are here live in studio and we're doing some funny math today. We're combining the 1 and the 3 to give us 13 things we're going to show you today. We find ourselves two geese honking here live at you, one studio, leaving you with zero regrets to tune in. So, Tyler, what are we here to talk about? We're here to talk about Veeam Software Appliance. You know, the new things that came in v13, VSA was a big part of that. But one of the unique things about it is the fact that, well, it's a software appliance. What does that mean? Well, we kind of take the best of both worlds. You've got hardware appliances where you just kind of rack them, stack them, plug them in, and ideally turn them on and start using them. But we take all that and we give you the flexibility of software. So you can install it where you want, how you want, but you get the benefits from both worlds. So we're going to kick things off here with Tyler. You know, go walk us through the host management console. But just before we do that, we're watching the stream live here. We want to make sure that if you have any questions, drop them in. We'll try to answer them as we go along. But let's get rolling on this adventure.
Absolutely, Matt. So what we've got up here on screen is a Veeam Host Management Console. This is where you can configure what you need to configure within that Veeam Software Appliance deployment itself. So you can get in, you can configure your networking settings, you can configure your users and roles. If you have different people you need to add to it, you can keep going and do all that stuff. And this is also a section where you can see your update history, and that right from that host management console. We'll show you a little more of the Veeam Updater as we get into that web UI as well, which brings me over to the web UI itself. See, here we can actually see this beautiful new dashboard. You know, you can see your infrastructure health, your protection overview, your threat hunting, all that stuff right here. Matt, what do you like about that web UI?
Oh, well, as you mentioned, you know, you've got this glorious new dashboard. You can just log in right there and you're able to see all this great information, right? Just really at your fingertips. It's also very responsive. So this is great. You know, it's a brand new interface. It's accessible from anywhere. All you need is a good web browser and away you go. But that's not all. We mentioned, you know, the whole appliance-like experience. Part of that comes down to the lifecycle management. Tyler, how do you actually manage the software for the appliance?
Absolutely, Matt. You jump over here to the Manage Servers section, and we get this great deployment here. You can see all your different Veeam Software Appliance, your proxies, your Veeam hardened repository here, and you can manage the updates right from here. So if we want to go and check for updates on an individual server, we can do that here. And let me remind you, everyone, this is our lab environment. We like to tinker and we like to play, so sometimes things will break in the middle of it, but just bear with us. We're coming to you live. Matt, what are we going to show next?
So next on the list, let's talk about immutability, right? It's a cornerstone to any good sort of disaster recovery plan, business continuity plan, just data resilience in general. So we've got lots of options for immutability, but one of the neat things with, you know, the Veeam Software Appliance is how that immutability is baked in right from the get-go. So Tyler, why don't you walk us through this?
Absolutely. So you can see here we have a few different repositories here. You can manage your backup repositories, your scale-out repositories, and your Veeam Data Cloud Vault, which we'll bring up right here. And you can see we have a couple different Veeam Vaults attached right now, and we can get to, you know, that direct, immutable, encrypted backups without much difficulty right from within here. So it's a great way to see your immutable by default repositories here with Veeam Vault, and with that Veeam Software Appliance you get that immutable by default backup repository too. So you have your on-premises immutability and you have your off-site immutability. It's a great way to get protected and ensure you stay protected no matter where you sit.
Yeah. So, you know, immutability, obviously a key part, you know, of resilience, your 32110 plan. So it's great that it's never been easier to achieve that, right? And just touching back even on the Veeam Updater, if you're leveraging things like the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance ISOs to push out your own Veeam hardened repositories, a lot of that stuff can be managed now too. So it's not just lifecycle management for the Veeam Software Appliance, it's also lifecycle management for a lot of the other components that are part of Veeam Data Platform, because a healthy managed environment is a key to success as far as when it comes to resilience. So next, we're talking a lot about making sure that your backups are secure, that they're immutable, that they can't be altered. But there's also a component to this about making sure that your infrastructure is safe from prying eyes. That's where Recon comes in. So Tyler, why don't you give us a quick run through of what is Recon for those who aren't familiar, and what do we have here? Where you go show us.
Absolutely. So Recon Scanner is a great way of getting that extra visibility into your environment. It does some great overview of what's going on in your environment for any kind of attacks that may be happening, and you load it on your different Veeam components within your environment to make sure that you're able to keep abreast of what's going on, right? So if somebody's trying to brute force you, if somebody is trying to attack, if somebody is sideloading applications and already in, this is the kind of stuff that Veeam Recon Scanner will show up. And you can see that directly here within your Veeam Threat Center itself. So now you can see all the triage, you can see your medium alerts, your high alerts, all this kind of stuff is brought visible to you without ever having to leave this dashboard itself. Matt, what was your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so before I answer that, quick shout out. I see that we're getting some feedback from the field out there, so thank you very much for that. Thanks for the comments coming on YouTube as well. If you haven't tried this out yet, I want to mention it again. Free 30-day trial is available. Just go to veeam.com, download it, go to your favorite search engine, just search for Veeam 30-day trial. You'll get a full trial experience to try out any of these things yourself. Now, we talked about Recon there. One thing I do want to mention as well is formerly it was only available to premium licensed users, so VDP Premium. It is now actually available for those advanced licensed users as well. So if you do run Veeam Data Platform Advanced, you can actually just log into your My Account webpage, and you should actually see a download for it there. It's very easy to get started with, brings a lot of value add. And if you're not familiar, once again, with Recon, we've got some resources out there that you could use to look into, see what it can actually do, but it's a great addition to the toolkit when it comes to resilience. So we're talking Recon, we're in the Veeam Threat Center here, but that's not all that's really changed as far as the integrations between Veeam Backup and Replication and Veeam ONE. Tyler, why don't you talk about some of the report integrations that we have now, powered by this beautiful web UI?
Absolutely, Matt. So here within that Veeam web UI here, you can see we got that analytics section here with your dashboards and reports. And I want to remind everybody here, we are coming to you live. So if you have questions, add them to chat, bring them up, and maybe we can jump into that feature live on camera right for you. See here, back to what Matt was talking about with that integration, we got our dashboards here so we can see that threat center right from within our Veeam VBR console itself. And then we can also go over to the reports here and we can pull up all those lovely Veeam ONE reports directly here. And it's a great way to get some extra visibility into your environment that only Veeam ONE can really bring you, Matt. What did you like about the different reports here? Which report is your favorite?
They're like children. I don't have a favorite report. You can't pick favorites, that's not fair. But what I do love about this is how easy it is to find a report now. So Tyler, why don't you type something into that search bar there, and we'll see that it just automatically starts to filter things. So what's really great about this is you don't need to know the exact name of the report that you're looking for. You could go in there and say, maybe I want to know about sizing, maybe I want to know about tape. You're able to just go in there, search for these things, and immediately you'll get results back showing you what these reports, what reports are available. And from there, it's as simple as just kind of clicking on them and you're able to run them. So what's really neat, especially with the newest version, is there's been some significant architectural changes. So these reports actually run very fast. You could export them right away. You could get the data that you need right away without any sort of waiting around. But the other really cool thing that we're seeing is the way that integrates into Veeam Intelligence. So if you're not familiar with Veeam Intelligence, it's a core part of Veeam Data Platform. It leverages our LLM models, and it's able to not just give you answers, but it's able to provide you some insights. So Tyler, I know that you're big on Veeam Intelligence. Why don't you give us a run through here of what we're looking at?
Absolutely. So you can see that we can bring up the Veeam Intelligence right from within that web UI. You can bring it up right from within that traditional thick client as well if you want, but this is a great way for you to be able to ask a question in real time and in real language to know what, ask what's going on with your environment. So we can ask, what are the top 3 things we need to worry about with our environment right from within that Veeam UI, and it's a great way to get that information back.
So while you were typing that in, a couple of shout outs to the audience. Randy Lee, love the graphs. Absolutely, the graphs are just beautiful. I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So being able to get that information visually represented at a glance, it's fantastic. And we've also got a question here. Can the reports be scheduled and emailed out? Tyler, why don't you handle that?
Absolutely, Matt. That is a great feature of Veeam Intelligence. You can not only schedule the reports and get them sent out, but you can also download them in a CSV file and a PDF file. And there's so many different options there. So now you can configure the reports right from within Veeam ONE and only show the information you need to show. So it's a great way to get that information about your environment and schedule it out, send it out. Maybe you have some executives that need to know the information. Maybe you just want to keep a record of it in your email. You have a lot of different options there.
Yeah. So, and it's not just Veeam ONE that will send out the reports either. So you've got your typical VBR reports, and we'll actually touch on something there shortly. But there's also reports from Veeam Recovery Orchestrator. If you're leveraging that to automatically test your DR plans, for example, you can actually have those reports just emailed out to you automatically. So you're not searching for these things. You show up every Monday morning and see hopefully what should be a successful test DR plan that was run over the weekend. So lots of flexibility there. So we've been talking about Veeam Intelligence here, but there's also been some significant improvement with Veeam Intelligence within VBR. So Tyler, why don't you take us through what we call the Veeam Intelligence Advanced Mode and what that actually does?
Absolutely. So here we can see that you can enable Veeam Intelligence Advanced Mode right from within your console itself. So now we have that advanced mode, you have basic, and if you don't want it, you can just simply disable it right here and you don't have to worry about any of that. But here, what that advanced mode really brings out is a few extra features here. So let's dive into that AI coffee report that we have as well. And you can see that from within the traditional client here. We're going to set some options here to see these settings. So within Veeam Intelligence, again, you can configure advanced mode right here. But if you want to get that extra AI coffee report, you can enable it right here. And Matt, what does that really give you?
So it gives you a little bit of peace of mind. If you haven't seen the morning coffee report, it's actually pretty cool. Tyler, I think you might actually even have an image of it. What this does is it filters down, it distills the information that you care about in an easy to consume way. So you're not stuck searching through multiple emails, multiple reports. You're actually able to just go in there and at a glance know, how are things looking today? Now, I do want to give a couple of shout outs here. A great comment from Hin referring to all those reports. Yes, that is a lot of children, but I love all my reports equally. They're all special in their own way. And a special honk goes out to Jim Jones. Thank you for that. Wow, we got a couple of viewers here. We've got North Virginia showing up. So this is all great. I love this report. Tyler, why don't you give us a quick walkthrough of some of the things that we see on this daily resilience, daily summary report?
Absolutely, Matt. So here we've got the total number of sessions that we have actually ran over the last day. We can see how many successes we've had, how many errors we've had, and it gives you a bit of the detail on what's going on with those errors. So you can see here, what's happening and what to do next. You can see maybe we have a worker that isn't properly running. Maybe the logs have downloaded or failure to download the logs, anything like that. You can see we've had recent job failures with our Oracle VM backups. So these are just great ways that you can find a little more information on what to do next. And these links will send you right to Help Center or maybe to a blog on Veeam.com or different information that you can now use to see more, right? So what I like about this is I'll see this information, I'll dive in, get into the Help Center. Maybe I'll ask Veeam Intelligence, hey, what do I do next? I've got this error. What does that mean? How can I use this to learn more and just dive more into this situation? And I found, we did a demo the other day, and I found that you can go right into it and get all the information you need right from Veeam ONE, and then figure out the problem and get it resolved. It's a great way to get through all of that. Matt, was there anything else you wanted to cover about that?
I want to give you a shout out for answering a question that you didn't even know existed. So we had a great question from Daniel. If you have an issue with your backups failing, can Veeam Intelligence help you troubleshoot and fix it? So I think you covered that pretty decently in depth. Yes, there's lots of available options, and with Veeam Intelligence you get to choose the mode that runs in. You could basically have it disabled, you can have it where it's running in basic mode, which is more or less providing documentation, or you can have it run in the advanced mode, and that's where it starts actually looking at your environment, providing insights into your environment. So it's actually a fantastic tool. It's a great way to more or less add another opinion to what you're trying to do here. You can ask it questions, it's judgment free. So there's no such thing as a question that's too stupid to ask it, right? And it can provide you some great insights. Once again, if you're not familiar with it, if you haven't tried it yet, we got the 30-day trial that's available out there on Veeam.com. And yeah, folks watching, feel free to keep dropping in these questions. We're trying to get to them as they come in. So this is great. So now, backups are important and everything, but we touched on this a little bit with Recon. What happens when there's a threat? What happens when we're performing a backup and we find something that doesn't quite look right? That's where this proactive backup scanning feature comes in. So this is kind of nestled away a little bit into the interface here, but it's a pretty cool feature that we have.
Absolutely, Matt. Really appreciate you calling that one out. So we can get into here, we can get through to the different settings here and really get to that proactive backup scanning in the interface here itself. And that's really found right here within that malware detection settings. So then we can dive in and do that signature detection and that proactive investigation. So what I found with that is it's actually thrown me for a bit of a loop when I've done a few of my demos, because I'm like, all right, I'll get some VM in my environment that I know is isolated but compromised, just so I can show the really value of Veeam bringing out the malware scanning, and then I've turned on the preventative or proactive investigation here, and what that's ended up doing is already alerting me and finding out these are false positives and clearing them off, because hey, I'm not actually going to throw something live into my environment. So some of this is great information here, and it just decreases the amount of noise you're going to see in your environment, Matt. It's a great tool.
Yeah, so some great feedback coming in here once again. Great advice here from Randy, who's watching. The better you prompt it, the better the results. And in this day and age, that's something that we all kind of need to work on. It's always continual. I always like to use these prompt-based AIs to have a conversation, to dive deeper. It's pretty rare that you're going to get the exact answer that you want, or the answer that you need, or that you understand back in the first shot. So there's great reasons to, frankly, build up a prompt library. Build up a prompt library for your own environment. Questions that you might find yourself regularly asking Veeam Intelligence. Start nuancing those, right? What else are you asking after the fact? Have that conversation. but also have those insights that you can learn from there. So proactive backups, that falls kind of under the whole security thing, proactive backup scanning. But that's not all that we've introduced as part of this. So we're talking about Veeam Data Platform v13, just some of the high-level greatest hits that we love if you're just tuning in now. Tyler, why don't you talk us through single sign-on? What's available there?
Absolutely. This is actually another great feature I really enjoy about v13 here. So you can bring up the users and roles. This is stuff that you've already known and loved before. But maybe you want to add another role into it. You want to have a scoped role. Maybe you have some junior employees. You just want to be able to do a few things, maybe take a backup of a couple VMs within a couple repositories. And maybe you have, your more senior employee that you want to give more keys to that kingdom with. So you can create those custom roles. But what's more, Matt, is you can jump into the identity provider and enable that SAML-based authentication. So now you can tie it to your SAML provider like Enter ID, like Okta, or many others, and be able to get those groups centrally managed, but added into your Veeam Backup Replication environment, and then assign it to a role here so that only the right people are given the right keys to the kingdom here. And this is a great new feature, and it makes really logging into your Veeam environment so much smoother, so much quicker. It gets you back to doing what you want to do quickly and easily. Matt, should we walk through a role?
Absolutely, right? So SAML and our enhanced role-based access controls, they really go hand in hand. This really gives you a great way to roll out permissions at scale across your VBR fleet if you've got multiple hosts that you're managing. But also gives you that centralized management. So Tyler, to your point earlier, if you're maybe offboarding someone, you're able to basically disable their account in one spot. Or similarly, maybe someone now has more responsibilities. You can add them to whatever that backup admins group is, say in the intro ID, and have that propagate to these new roles, these new capabilities. So you can see it's fairly straightforward as far as creating these roles, leveraging RBAC really is what it comes down to. You could create roles based on whether it's a restore operation, a backup operation, where it's going, repositories, VMs. You can even leverage things like vSphere tags. So maybe you've got, let's say, a group of product managers who they go in there and they just regularly break things, but you want to give them that control over the small subset of the lab. You can do that nuanced settings in this now. So it's a really, really cool addition. So we've actually got more questions coming in. This is great, folks. Keep sending them in. So Sunil is asking, and I hope I get the concept of this question right, but basically, can we configure Veeam Intelligence to fix maybe repetitive failures, for example, or maybe VM consolidations? So the short answer is it could be used to help troubleshoot why those things are happening, but at the moment, it's not necessarily meant to interact with, let's say, the guest OS running within that VM or external systems. Now, who knows what the future holds? I mean, stay tuned. We'll deliver things as they become available. But that's a great question. And I love that line of thinking of, how can we go past just the break fix, why is this broken? But actually, what do I need to change? What do I need to implement in order to actually make this a solution? And we've also got a question from friend of the show, Hin. He asks, how quickly are the signatures updated when a new threat is discovered? So I believe that's in reference to Veeam Threat Hunter. Tyler, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. So the signatures are updated as soon as the signatures are provided. And I think that's about every hour these signatures get refreshed regularly. If there is a new signature update, there might be an hour or two goes by without a new signature available, but they do get updated on a hourly basis right then.
So just one other thing to add to that, the neat thing with Veeam Threat Hunter is if you go to perform a scan, the first step it will do is if it hasn't been updated within the last hour, it will actually go out and proactively look for an update. So that's just one of the many ways to make sure that it's trying to always use the latest and greatest information. Now, for those who have been keeping count, that last one was feature number 12. So here we are, we're coming up to feature 13. Tyler, what do we go round this out with?
Oh, Matt, should we maybe do an instant recovery to Azure?
Let's show the folks what they want.
That's a great idea. And let's bring this up. Let's go instant recovery to Microsoft Azure. Let's see what this looks like, right? We got a bit of time here. I think we went through a lot of these demos really fast. If there is something you want to see us dive a little closer into, please tell us. We'll loop back to it. We'll bring it up, and hopefully I haven't been logged out of our consoles and be able to do that, right? So let's go through here. We find the subscription we have. We find the location we need. Let's go Canada Central, Mac, because that's just where we like to throw our VMs, right? So let's do an instant recovery here. We're going to walk here and go through. But Matt, while this wizard's going up, I think you have a bit of an announcement to make here.
Yeah, so just, as we're getting closer to the end here and as we wait for this to go through, quick note, Text Bytes returns next Tuesday, 26th of February for an exciting episode, but we can't share all the details yet. So be sure to join Rick Van over at noon Eastern that day to learn more. So it's going to be a great show. I'm going to be tuning in personally, but make sure that you come back for that.
Man, it's hard to ever want to miss a Rick Vanover show. That guy is fantastic, so I'm looking forward to that episode there. But here we go, like we're querying the VM size and storage accounts. Sometimes this can take a hot minute, but then you can see here we've got our original name, our VM name, and we can walk through a little bit more of this. It's going to take a second here as we go through, but this is where you can pick your sizing, you can pick your storage accounts. The defaults here are just fine. And let's see if we have the right resources. We've got a resource group here already. Again, the defaults work for this. But Matt, why would somebody want to do an instant recovery to Azure?
Well, I'll show you a great example if we're able to actually get to the next screen here, the network screen. So there's a couple of reasons why you might want to do this. So one, for example, you need to get something up and running quickly. Maybe you don't have the infrastructure that you need on-prem. Maybe you have an angry sysadmin and the server's gone. So you need somewhere to get this back up and running quick. That's one great use case. Another great use case is right here. Let's say you need to scan this. Maybe you're not sure if there's a threat, or that it's clean and you want to restore it somewhere that is clean. So for example, Tyler, if you click on that virtual network box at the top, you'll see we've got like a separate quarantine network. So let's say you have a use case where this is a critical workload, you've been hit with ransomware in your data center. You need to get this back up and running. The backup itself is clean. Where can you put it that it won't be, possibly affected by a ransomware event that might still be ongoing? So being able to restore this into a clean room type environment using instant VM recovery into Azure, right, from Vault, this is a fantastic solution. So you get the protection from Vault, right? You've got basically immutability, things aren't being tampered with. You're able to restore this quarantined. So it's really the best of both worlds without having to maintain that physical infrastructure somewhere that's air-gapped. So lots of great info here. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it. It's been a little bit of a marathon on our end, but we managed to get through all 13. Believe it or not, we actually even had some other features that we didn't touch on that we'd love to. Things like high availability for the Veeam Software Appliance. Malware detection for cloud backups. Yes, we can actually do that. We can perform AV scans, threat hunter scans, Yara scans for those cloud backups. So no longer do you need to worry about, hey, we got these VMs running in the cloud. We're actually able to perform a scan on those as well to ensure that they remain safe. But there's always more that we could talk about. Stay tuned for the next episode we're on. But until then, thanks for tuning in. Tyler, any closing words?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. Where can people find us next? Right?
Good
So
point.
let's talk about that for a second. We've got a couple extra webinars coming up here. We're going to be doing a couple webinars together. Matt's got a webinar on his own. And you can also find us at the RSA conference. And you can find us, or you can find Matt at the Nutanix.next conference coming up. So here are a few QR codes that you can scan to to register or see what's coming next. You know, Matt, this has been a great episode to do together. I am excited to be able to sit next to you live here in studio. I can reach out and touch my friend. It's great. So thank you all for tuning in. I've loved doing this with you, and I look forward to seeing all your next questions on our next episode. And please check out Rick next time.
Thanks, all.
Thanks.